feel paralyzed. Hello and welcome to the Space Force Tournament semi-finals between Eclipse and Default. I will be your play-by-play caster, Belly OW. With me is the ever wonderful and always informative Moxie. Hi, Moxie.
Hey guys, we do indeed have a game on our hands today, Belle. We saw yesterday exactly what Eclipse were capable of. So it's going to be interesting to see if Default can actually meet them and beat them.
Indeed, it will be interesting to see. So far, indeed, Eclipse being undefeated in this tournament, having won 3 rounds in a row yesterday versus AVX. Which we have seen on stream. AVX we will also be seeing later after this matchup. It is a first to 3, so best of 5 as usual. So yes, that is something for us to look out for.
Well, it's going to be Lijiang Tower, and it's actually going to be Gardens that we're going to be going into first, which means, Belle, Lijiang is my favorite of the control maps, and because Farah, come on, you have to pick the Farah on this map. You have to.
Indeed. Well, I'm making a quick check. Let's see. Default that they're playing against currently have 2 wins and 1 loss. Let's see. A win versus GG, well played, and a win versus Sync. Both we will not be seeing in this round at the moment.
Well, Eclipse are going to be looking to continue this golden stage. Default are obviously going to be looking to stop them.
Well, one thing that I forgot to change was the scores. So that is...
It's okay. I mean, they haven't locked in any heroes yet, so we can only really speculate, but I'm pretty sure we may be seeing the Farahs be coming out from both sides.
Well, we might do. It is Lijiang Tower Gardens. So...
Yes, that is indeed a Farah and a Widow. In fact, both teams kind of opting for the same thing, with the only difference being the Ana and the Lucio. Eclipse opting for Peach to go on for that speed boost, and Default valuing the anti-nade over the boost bell. We'll have to wait and see whether that's gonna pay out for them.
Let's see. Indeed, we will see whether it will play out as we swap indeed to the camera of Overwatch. Or we'll be seeing these teams pushing in with dive comps on both sides.
Oh, Cuckoo Papa was so lucky he had that jump pack available. He gets pooped off but manages to make his way back onto the ground. No environmental there.
Environmental indeed, but Paradox will get a pick onto Dozer as the opening pick here for let's see, something that I also need to switch around again. There we go for Default. Yes, indeed, it looks like Eclipse will be the first one taking the point here.
Yeah, well, Dozer's just kind of set up in a really annoying angle. As soon as Default come out of the spawn, they're just going to be instantly met by that Widowmaker headshot. And that means that they have to just put so many resources into chasing her away. Not actually finding the kill, but Cuckoo Papa does manage to just launch the Widow from her nest.
Indeed, well, PC Viking gets res here, so we have both teams at full strength. As Pikal is at the backline, but Dozer again with an opening pick here onto Paradox. A second pick here, the Widow popping off. The res comes in for Paradox, but it is now 5 versus 6, which is going to make it quite difficult for Default to keep pushing in here.
Yeah, well, they're sending so many people after Dozer, and Dozer is still just finding all of the value. They've tried the Winston, they've tried the Farah now. The Farah actually dies because of that engagement. And now Eclipse, they're just sitting on so many ultimates. Paradox is going to activate the visor, so it has a little bit of an advantage over Dozer at the moment. But I mean, if you don't manage to hit the shot, then it doesn't really matter because you lose visor now as soon as you die.
Indeed you do. Well, they use visor. There's no real value for it at the moment as they don't really manage to push in. They got a bit of view, but we have Pikal in the backline looking for that barrage. Sandberry gets used quite early here for Eclipse. The barrage gets used as well. PC Viking gonna give up their life for it, but not before they get 2 picks off. Will Eclipse be able to turn this around? Pikal still up on high with the barrage ready, is gonna be looking for it, gets Dozer out of the fight, and Kutissimo actually off the point, so we're gonna probably see a flip here. But
No,
Ludwig with the
gets
2-man
two!
bomb!
You thought the fight was over, but Eclipse is still going. They can take this back. The reinforcements are hit. That's the Fire down. The Fire is down on their side, but it's just the Diva and a Doomfist now, Bell, with an Ana trying to keep them up desperately.
Indeed, the Hammond onto the point, dropping quite low. Ludwig just getting all of the required picks here to just keep on holding onto this point. As we seen yesterday as well, if I remember correctly, on this point, Ludwig with like 3 picks there too, just solo carrying their team.
Well, not quite solo carrying, because I would say that Doza had one hell of a hand in keeping that point in their clutches. Well, that would have really was playing out of their mind at some points in that map.
Indeed, very much so. But
And I mean, it was just the constant fear of their headshot that had default basically sending. They had to split almost as soon as they came out of the spawn doors and send at least maybe 2 people to just try and hassle Doza so that he wouldn't be able to find the shots.
Indeed, well, now the Widow is not going to be quite useful anymore as we go to Control Tower. The long sidelines not really available and quite easy to dive, so it will indeed be Ryan Zarya. Keeping in mind that this tournament is already indeed being played in the 2-2-2 lock, not on PTR, just an enforced 2-2-2. As we see the teams now going to hammer at each other, both tanks is kind of hammering around. It's gonna be who gets the first wall off. The wall isn't actually that good, doesn't actually manage to wall anyone off. The Reinhardt is on the high ground, short charge, doesn't manage to find anyone, but Ludwig does find someone. Cuckoo Papa early out of the fight, which leads to the second pick, is gonna lead for Eclipse to probably take this point first once again. Good time to go to charge.
As soon as that May comes out of the block, just instantly slammed into the next wall. And now they just go so aggressively, which is what we always see teams do, especially when they're running this May, because as soon as default walk through the doors, they're gonna try and just wall off one of them, which is either gonna force default to use a speed boost or take the long way around.
Indeed, well, PC Viking not really in an angle to make the walls easier. They do get the wall
but they
off.
get the line! That's the one target you really want to get if you're a May!
Indeed, well, they go a bit far, so they did risk just ever so slightly the enemy team come back in, but they didn't manage. They do manage to push it back, so the Rhine is out of the fight, and they are now coming up to a few ultimates.
Yeah, well, I think they're actually gonna... Are they gonna try and speed push through? They might. They're trying to bait the wall out, but once again it's the Rhine. No, the wall doesn't wall them out!
No, it does not. It was actually the counter wall to deal with that wall, but the nanoed Rhine Cuckoo Papa just getting deleted here. Too much damage being done as we try see some futile attempts at trying to flank, and it's another push just completely negated. However, that was only a nano used by default.
It was indeed. Well, they do have 5 ultimates, and we actually see 5 ultimates on the side of Eclipse. So we could see the mirror grab, the mirror beat to try and negate that.
Well,
Doesn't matter, Eclipse have a death blossom.
Indeed, the Blizzard does get most everyone, but Doza says, how about I just kill you all and negate the Blizzard by murder? Very appropriate for Reaper, I would say.
Okay, well, here's the good side. You managed to bait out the grab from Eclipse. Default have still been holding on to theirs. So if they come into this and manage to grab well, sign barrier to go aggressively, then they might be able to get a couple of picks.
That is a late shatter as Papa gets grouped up into the air. A late flip comes in, not after they already get 99%, but Cutissimo just comes charging in with MC gone straight onto the point and getting the point flip once again. Overtime now ticking down. And Nano onto Paradox is gonna leave him alive for just a bit longer, but not long enough to actually keep on to the point. Overtime still ticking down. It's now gonna be stagger picks once again. The Rhine trying just anything he can.
Lucio. So it is... I mean, they just lost the main tank. So at the moment, it's just a Lucio trying to be as annoying and staying alive for as long as he can. The Doomfist is back, but he is just slapped immediately.
And with the Blizzard on point, that will be indeed Eclipse taking the very first map. So that is a one first map victory here to get the score up now. So let's start editing stuff here as we go along.
I would say that was very decisive, especially on the second map. As soon as Eclipse won that first team fight and they just went up to that aggressive positioning, making sure that Default just could not walk through those doors. They had the map pretty much. There was maybe what? They got 4% Default when they managed to do a cheeky little back cut, but then Eclipse just come charging all the way back and decimate them.
They did indeed come back to decimate them, and decimate they did, as they just took a very convincing Lijiang Tower. That will be the question, what we will be seeing for the next map here.
Well, I could actually predict a Sombra maybe coming out from Default, just trying to hack the Rhine. We've seen it in games before. The Shatter EMP combination can be devastating if pulled off correctly.
And indeed, it can be devastating, as you say, but it is still the first map, so it is still waiting out what will happen for the next one, and it is still anyone's game going into the second map, which we're waiting out right now what that will be.
Yeah, the maps on Overwatch, they're a bag of variety, I would say. Whereupon most of the DPS, you do want to choose your DPS around not just your composition, but also the maps that you're playing, because some DPS can be really strong on one map and absolutely awful on the other. But it's going to be Havana that we're going into, Bal, and I predict a bunker.
I would expect some bunker action. We'll be seeing the Bastion, we'll be seeing the Torbjorn, we'll be seeing more Dozer Widow. It is just a matter of time before we find out.
Well, Eclipse did actually use the bunker in yesterday's game on Havana, so they could just be falling back to that because it worked out pretty well for them, didn't it, Bill?
It did work out pretty well for them.
They out-bunkered AVX's bunker pretty quickly.
I mean, they out anything AVX, seeing as they got a 3-0 win versus AVX as well.
I mean,
So,
I wouldn't say it was a clean. It
wasn't a
sort
clean.
of clean 3-0, but AVX still fought back valiantly.
Indeed, AVX fought back, but AVX was also on a 2-0 win streak, same as Eclipse. Now indeed on a 2-1, same as Default. So I don't know. I've seeing it kind of grim for Default at the moment, especially after this initial very convincing victory on Lijiang Tower.
They did manage to make it through that choke eventually.
Mm-hmm.
They did manage to counter May Wall, which let them all get through. But yeah, I mean, at what point are we gonna just see a couple of swaps come through? Maybe not from the tank line, but from the DPS line. If the Reaper is having trouble, then surely you would just grab a McCree and flashbang. Or a Sombra and just hack him out.
It's something you would expect, but I mean, that is the thoughts that might be going through the teams, but they might not feel comfortable in certain things. We never know.
Yes, we will. But it will be Havana that we're going into, and we have 17 seconds until I am sure what's going to happen is we're going to see Bastions being locked in across both of these teams' boards, Bell. It has to be the Bastion bunker, surely.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. It can be the Bastion bunker, it can be a whole lot of other things. But I would mostly indeed expect bunker. The attacker side indeed always the question what that will be, seeing as they can still swap until last minute. But it looks like the defense will indeed be going for a Bastion bunker, opting for a Widow as well for some long range potential.
Yeah, well, I'm liking Eclipse's pick of the Sombra Hammond. If they're bunkering on the high ground, you can just send the Hammond rolling on through, knock them all down. Or just take one down, say maybe the Orisa or the Bastion, take them out of the fight, then camp the body to prevent the res. Could work quite well.
That could work exceptionally well. But we will see how the attack will go. It's looking like they might be sticking with this divey composition, going for the Hammond.
I don't know how long, because unfortunately having a Hammond as a main tank does mean Anna Diva as well, who has to dive with the Hammond. The rest of the team have no real protection from this Bastion, who's just going to be sitting behind an Orisa shield, feeling nice and snug and safe.
That they have is the payload.
Well, Peach has no protection whatsoever from Paradox. That is instantly the Ana out of the fight.
Peach indeed not really hiding behind the payload. Now we see Kutissimo indeed dropping to the low ground.
He didn't actually manage to take anyone with him, but people are still just gonna drop down anyway.
They aren't gonna rotate around. Kutissimo is gonna be the first one to drop here for Eclipse. Yeah, sorry, second one to drop here for Eclipse. Peach being the first. And now we see picks coming in for default, pushing this dive back. And I'm not sure whether this dive is actually really the play to go here.
Well, Eclipse seemed to agree with you though, because we're actually seeing Kutissimo coming back on the Arista. But actually, Ludwig is, yeah, hot. I was gonna say, the matchup between a Diva and Arista, while a defense matrix is still pretty strong, it's not just the power pair that is Arista and Hog at the moment.
Well, one thing to keep an eye out for is Dozer on the Sombra gets a hack off onto Pikal, who now is not able to go into turret mode anymore. He's gonna get hooked out. Will they be able to get onto him? No, he actually manages to get out. He's in the middle of the enemy team but doesn't die. Now the amplification matrix is on to the point together with the immortality field. An EMP coming soon after, negating all of that. And that would be
Eclipse taking first point, I would say. The res! Okay, Nyan Zach, go for the res. Kudos to you, A for effort, D for death, because that is what happened to you.
That is indeed what will happen to the payload, just casually strolling on to first point as Eclipse keep moving on here.
Well, default are actually going to keep the picks that they have at the moment. They're probably just waiting for Pico to get that tank mode up.
Well,
Paradox, not going to be up any longer though, taken out by Kutissimo there.
and another hold hook is gonna get Nyanzak out of that fight as well. And the Diva mech also just getting removed here. Those are almost up to another EMP here.
We could see the EMP blade, or I mean, if Makeup manages to get his mech back in time, you see a couple of Divas just immediately ult as soon as they hear the Genji blade. The defensive Diva ult. A lot of teams are doing it in grabs, but you can do it in the really aggressive ultimates as well.
Could indeed be. Well, Dozer does have his EMP up now, and we see Default trying to set up here, but they're not going to be able to. Pick up being denied any.
Oh, watch Dozer. Dozer's waiting for that EMP.
That is the EMP coming in. Finds 5. Will it get any follow-up? The Sound Barrier getting popped as well. Paradox now out of the fight.
I mean, if you're Default, how do you come back into this?
They are still trying to hold on, but Papa is gonna drop solo onto the point, is actually gonna give up his life.
The bomb gets absolutely nothing as she falls in front of the payload. It's more of a zoning ult if anything, trying to make sure that they don't get that little bit of push left.
Indeed.
But it looks like Eclipse are going to grab point B very quickly though.
Killfin indeed looking extremely red here as the second point gets captured.
They didn't even need to throw in Blade.
They didn't. Now still 4 minutes and 10 seconds to go.
And
They've got a
Peach is
pretty good
coming
time
up
back.
to that Nano as well. We're going to see the Nano Blade, I'm pretty sure. And if you're Default, what are you going to do? You're going to have a Valk to fall back on. But a Valk doesn't heal up everybody through a Nano Blade, especially if the Mercy is cut down early.
No, well, that is a Nano Blade getting used now. Though all of the abilities used onto PC Viking, who just barely gets close enough to the McCree to try and do a bit of damage, but gets stunned and booped and just deleted. As we have Paradox now into the backline, getting Peach out of the fight. Meteor Strike as well, and Paradox now with the Doomfist getting a few picks off and seemingly slowly starting to stop this payload here.
Yeah, it's odd to see the Doomfist working it so well, especially against a team who has a Sombra. A Sombra with an EMP ready, I should add, but the Deadeye is just going to zone everybody out.
Actually not going to do it that much, just breaks the shield for a tiny bit. Now Halt comes in as well, PC Viking back. They do still have an EMP. Looks like Dozer will be using this soon. That is an EMP that finds 4 here. Kukupapa being the first to drop. MC got the second one. It's not before the main tank of Eclipse also gets denied any opportunity to keep moving, but Eclipse still getting picks here.
And they're going to be able to start. No, they're not going to be able to stagger the Mercy or the Widow. They actually managed to escape. There wasn't enough focus onto those two. And I mean, at which point are we going to see the swap off this Widow? Because they're just going to be hiding all behind the Arista shield Eclipse. You're going to try and hit a headshot on the squishies.
Yeah, well, that is another Nanoblade attempt that we see right here. One pick already taken, now going for the Widow, who is gonna be denied anything by the Sombra. Hack comes in onto PC Viking, however. Can't really climb around anymore, but again, more picks to start the fight out for Eclipse, making it really difficult for Default to really get any ground here.
They just couldn't find it. And I wouldn't blame it entirely on the Widow pick, because it could have worked out really well if you'd managed to headshot, say, one of the squishies like the Ana. But at that point, especially when you're being bothered by Sombra, who's definitely going to be in your backline, definitely going to be coming out of stealth to try and find you, because you only have grapple to escape, and an Orisa shield, which is essentially just a wall to a Widow who can do virtually nothing against it. But you can shoot that shield, and shoot that shield, and shoot that shield, and it will break maybe. But the Orisa is just going to put down another one immediately after.
Indeed, just not enough shield break is going to make it really hard for the Widow to get anything done, as long as they're not really flanking, which at that point becomes very difficult because it's so easily punished with by the Roadhog and just the hold hook combos or the Genji coming at you. So
yeah, I would have actually said maybe a Hansel would have been better in that circumstance. Just
could have been.
Storm Arrow, break the Orisa shield, let your tanks move forward now that the Orisa barrier is gone.
Indeed,
but we'll see. We'll see exactly how well their attack goes for them. It's going to be a Bastion on defense. Dozer is taking up that mantle.
It is indeed, and it's looking like a fairly similar defense, however, with the Hanzo as opposed to the Widow. So
yeah, and they're taking the low ground approach as well, going a little bit more aggressively.
The attack.
Which is actually kind of gonna negate Cuckoo Papa, because you can't roll anyone off the high ground when they're not on the high ground to begin with. This actually might be pretty smart, though.
Indeed, it might be. Well, it is actually a dive that the attack is opting for, but Hammond doesn't really get that much opportunity to dive here. He does get a boop off, and a hack comes in onto Cutissimo, but will that be enough? They are forced to just go back a bit, but a hook onto MC God is gonna take the Diva out of Mac, and an early pick onto Pickle. This is now Eclipse already holding on to this point quite convincingly.
Well, I mean, if you're default, you just want to try and disengage it as soon as possible, and that is exactly what Paradox does. Just dashes out of that, nopes out of it completely. They're trying to find him, actually. The Hulk's gonna come. He's just gonna be a little bit of a pest at the moment, Valve. Just jump up in the air, try and throw in a couple of shurikens, get that little bit of ult charge that he's still waiting for. But Pico is actually 60% away from his ultimate. What are you gonna combine the blade with?
Indeed, well, you can attempt to dry blade, but that will be an immortality field to deal with. Peach is gonna get the hack here, so no immortality field actually. But the hook gets Paradox out of the fight. The mines get used as well, but the immortality field are gonna deny most of the damage done by that. Apart from the damage onto Cutissimo, this is now indeed an opening in the defense that Default might be able to push in on.
Well, at the moment, Kukababra is just being such an annoyance, just rolling them all out of position. Eclipse can do nothing about it. They don't have a McCree, can't flashbang the hamster, can't hack him either because no Sombra. What they are gonna have, though, is that Bastion ultimate. And I mean, we could see the combination of the Bastion ultimate with the superchargers, or just Bastion ultimate with the amplification matrix.
Well, we're seeing just the Bastion ultimate straight up. And is not actually gonna fight much, as it just goes in on his own and just gets denied anything. The Transcendence gets popped as well, but that doesn't really fight much. He's gonna get taken out for his troubles.
Pico's pushing the payload. Oh, the Sombra almost gets it there. But does finally get contested by the Orisa. But that was a main tank drawn away from the team, but Default just can't capitalize on it. Too many of them are lost, too many of them that can spawn. And it's looking grim for them. They've got the mines, they've got the EMP, but Eclipse, they've got the amplification, they've got the whole Hawk, they've got a Dragon, they've got a Valk, and they've got Dozer who's just hitting these shots when he really needs to. And Paradox is forced to switch to contest this Widow.
Well, Piccolo is looking for this EMP here to initiate this next fight.
That's going to make it a little bit harder though, because there's a sound arrow now. So if the Sombra goes in, it doesn't matter if it's a 4-person EMP.
has a 4-person EMP, but there is no follow-up. People already added a fight, so no Discord orb to increase the damage done, so they can just kind of stay safe, apart from PC Viking, who just kind of runs into the mines.
Yeah, nobody saw that, Hanzo. Don't worry, there's a Mercy. You'll be right straight up. We definitely didn't see you just back into one after being hit by one already.
But it's now 45 seconds to go. They just used EMP, one of their strongest ultimates, and because there was no direct follow-up, it didn't find anything.
And it didn't really force anything out on the side of Eclipse either. They've still got the whole hug, they've still got the dragons, they've
got
still
everything.
got the amplification, and they've still got the vibe.
They just need to wait it out and press Q.
That is a desperation bomb.
Well, it does manage to do enough damage. Petissimo is out of the fight now. The amplification matrix actually gets used on the high ground just for Peach to increase the amount of healing that he's doing here. And it looks like that will be the play that they need to just keep everyone alive. The rest comes in onto Petissimo. And there's now 10 seconds remaining.
He's just going so aggressive, doesn't take the high ground, straight onto the main road.
Transcendence to just contest.
The chance to get onto the point.
Indeed, it's now only a Hammond and a Zenyatta on the point. They're not going to be able to do anything. Overtime now slowly ticking down. Eclipse taking their second map again very convincingly.
I mean, Default tried. They really did. They had this Sombra.
They did try.
The thing is, if you EMP a team, normally there are the supports that you want to get. The Lucio because he might have Sound Barrier, there's Nyado because he might have Transcend. Batiste is a little bit of a more annoying thing because you have that little window where the Zenyatta just used Transcendence and that little window where the Lucio just used Sound Barrier. The Batiste has the Immortality Field on a cooldown. So if you don't hack the Batiste out of it, and he positions and just stays behind the back line, out of line of sight, doesn't get EMP'd, his whole team gets EMP'd, he just presses that one tiny little button that's on a pretty long cooldown, but still a cooldown, and everybody gets to stay alive.
Indeed, everyone does get to stay alive. However, no one on default manages to stay alive, going for that round there, just getting denied any space by Eclipse. And again, I already said it, it's gonna be an uphill battle, but it's just more and more uphill as we will be going into the third map soon. I'm considering quite grim currently for default.
Yeah, it started off looking as if they were just, you know, on a little bit of a stroll up a hill, and now it seems they're trying to ascend Mount Everest. Well, it's just, there seems to be such a gap between these two teams. Like, you see exactly how far Eclipse managed to push, and then they full hold point A.
Yeah, there's not even... They barely got around 2 corners.
Yeah, they essentially didn't make it past the first corner. They made it out of the gas station.
Well, they made it past the first corner, but then just got full held to not make it past the first corner.
It's a shame as well when you get stopped at that first corner, because before you had, if you make it past the first corner and the second corner, you can stay behind the payload all the time. If you don't manage to make it past the second corner and it only stops at the first corner, there's suddenly no payload that you can hide behind, so that main road going all the way up to where the defenders can just sit on the high ground or down on the low ground, there's no cover for it. You can try and worm your way to the left or the right and weave around the buildings. But then if there's, say, a halt or a really well-timed hook, you just get yanked out of position immediately.
Indeed, well, it was really difficult for them to hold on to this, to push through Eclipse, and we've seen Eclipse playing King's Row very well yesterday. As in, they managed to both times, I'm pretty sure, get point A on the first fight.
Yeah, it was indeed. And then, if you remember, they managed to push most of Street's phase on overtime.
In overtime, so again, looking grim for default. They might feel more comfortable on King's Road than the other 2 maps, but so does Eclipse.
I think Eclipse are feeling a little bit cocky at the moment if they're gonna... No, they won't have Yak. Kutismo is gonna go onto the Reinhardt. They're not gonna just try and teleport straight onto point. No speed boost though. They're gonna go with the Ana and the Batiste, no Lucios. Nothing
defense
really a surprise. There's no Bastion, there's a bunker on the defense, but it's just gonna be a traditional bunker, Orisa and Hog.
Need Orisa Hog with 2 snipers to deal with it, and it's just gonna be Kutissimo just pushing it aggressively onto the Orisa, already at 63% for his Shatter. PC Viking, however, gonna be the first to drop here. Hack comes in onto the Immortality field, forcing them to push back just a little.
Well, I mean, if Default are trying to actually go through the hotel, half of Default, and cut them off at the retreat, and they actually get the Batiste.
The Dragon gets used up here, doesn't really zone that much, as Dozer is still in the backline, also trying to charge up EMP. Kutissimo now with the Shatter probably will be looking for it. Shield dropping extremely low.
He'll definitely be looking for it, but Default must be expecting it. They've seen exactly how much damage that Reinhardt managed to hammer into them. They must know that ultimate is up, and they have to be watching out for it. But oh no, the Ashe gets picked off by the Sombra.
The Sombra now nearly 90% to the ultimate. But it doesn't seem like they'll need it. They already just get 3 picks straight up on by using the amplification matrix. They still have a Hanzo just kind of checking in to the hotel.
Yeah, he's going to be checking out pretty shortly, I'm pretty sure.
He checked out right there. And it's now going to be Eclipse indeed going for a very aggressive hold here as they take point A. Might be investing some more ultimates to just push the Vault back here and get some free point push. Kutissimo gets hooked into the enemy team, doesn't actually get picked off. The Immortality field helping here. Bob getting invested as well here. There's going to be Ludwig eyes.
Seeing an opportunity. Eclipse aren't running a Lucio, so they don't have that speed boost to back out when things start turning pear-shaped, and their Default are just going to capitalize on that. They have a Mercy, they can res their Fallen, but that's a 5-person EMP.
With a Shatter to follow up, because they can't do anything to deny the Shatter. And this is Kutissimo just going ham here onto the enemy team.
Really is. The Reinhardt just paying off so much. And I mean, if you're Cuckoo Papa, I would suggest using supercharges and then swapping, because Narissa versus Rein, it's a matchup.
It's a matchup, but on King's Row, it's such a difficult one.
We're gonna see a Farah coming out, trying to just lob damage in over this Reinhardt shield.
Got to feel already use amplification matrix now, amplifying the fire strike that got used, and Dragon being invested as well. They already got Paradox out of the fight, so no more Farah to help here. Pivkle as well, support just gone. MC got trying his best to just stall however he can, but he's not going to be able to. It's 5 minutes on the clock and just 1 more point to push.
It is, and Kutissimo goes for a Nani judge, but there's just no one to punish him for it on default, so he manages to get back to his team.
Indeed, well...
Cuckoo Papa still has the supercharges. Is he actually going to find an opportunity to use them? It's really the only ultimate they've got now. It's like gonna have the Valkyrie. Paradox has to absolutely pop off like crazy if he wants to get Barrage up.
Well, he already got PC Viking out of the fight, however the point already got pushed halfway through to the final capture point.
Kutissimo has that shadow. If he manages to hit it, we can surely see a nano coming down onto him. Dozer is trying so hard to build that EMP so they can combo. Nano boost administered. They don't need the EMP!
Yeah, they don't need the EMP, the Shatter just comes down, however Kutissimo is gonna get slapped here after. Now though Nyanzak gets hacked as he is on the floor, not allowed to Guardian Angel to safety. So that is indeed the Valkyrie just denied entirely.
Oh, he takes the high ground, amplification matrices, make sure that he's just having so much damage in as people walk out of spawn.
That's an EMP that gets invested in Mortality Field as well. Will they be able to confirm this point now? It's now going to be stagger picks. Still looking red in the kill feed. MC got still on point. He does still have an Ana healing him. Dragon now to zone people away. We only have Pivkle trying to hold on to the point. Fikal, it's stagger picks. Dragon across point is going to get the pick, and that will be the full push very convincingly, with a lot of time still left on the clock.
Oh, PC Viking got so lucky there. When Default's Dragon comes through, PC Viking is on the main road. slept, and he wakes up just in time to dash out of the way of that dragon.
Look at that time back. They still have 3 minutes and 20 seconds in case this goes to round 3.
Okay, well, Default can be happy with themselves because Eclipse, for once, didn't win the point control on the first fight. It only took them the second.
It took them a bit longer, but it wasn't long off of first fight, so...
It was first fight and a half, I would say. They didn't quite pull like back all the way. Either voluntarily or involuntarily, a couple of them got pulled back in. But I mean, Default, they just didn't really find a foothold at all. They had nothing that really slowed Eclipse down all the way.
Indeed they did not, as we see the defense now setting up with the same Ryan Zarya composition. With as well the Baptiste, who's proven to be very valuable, especially with the immortality field.
Well, if you get anti-naded, if your team gets anti-naded, similar to like the EMP, it means that, yeah, you're not going to get healing, but immortality field doesn't actually heal you, it just keeps you alive. So it's a really good defense against that need from an Ana.
It is indeed a very good defense to just hold on to everything here. It's gonna be Ryan Zarya versus Ryan Zarya, but an attacking Mei here, trying to possibly wall some people off or slow them down. Pickle on the Reaper as well. A quick rotation through the hotel. Now indeed a wall off that doesn't fully wall off. It's now Cuckoo Papa who's just a bit out of the way. Both main tanks out of the fight. So it's on to the off tanks to try and do what they can. Ludwig is gonna get frozen just ever so slightly, is dropping quite low here, has to use his bubbles to try and stay alive. It's actually not gonna manage to.
No, it's the supports now just trying to stay alive. Magic Necti manages to get Nyan Zach. They can come back, their main tank is here.
Indeed, the main tank is here, and with the immortality field, he's gonna stay alive again.
Well, they do manage to chunk that immortality field down. There's currently no contest, so that's nearly 2 points, 2 ticks taken by Default, but there will now be Eclipse just touching point, trying to get a little bit of contest. The anti as well, that's so nice.
That is a 5-man EMP. Will they be able to follow this up?
Well, they've got an immortality field on the point to just let them contest, go aggressive, try and get the picks in, but that's Cuckoo Papa just trying to charge from behind, but he gets taken out by the Sombra.
Taken out, and everyone just kind of spreading out and giving him space to throw his body onto the point, however, no actual point percentage. That is 2 ticks taken, but they still didn't capture the point.
Yeah, and Eclipse are coming up to the grab and the dragon. And another amplification matrix. And they've still got this nano, so are they actually going to be able to get it?
Shatter comes in, gets Kutissimo on the floor, who gets frozen as well, but the picks are again coming in, mostly for Eclipse. Kutissimo not actually dying. We're now seeing an investment of ultimates here. Will the solo Mei be able to do enough?
Apparently so.
It's
the Blizzard
looking
just
like
freezes
it.
everybody in place. And Pico didn't actually have to use Death Blossom. He's gonna use it anyway. He's gonna get 2.
At this point, Eclipse indeed, I would figure they already knew that they were probably not going to hold on to this, but just stall for time and pull out a few ultimates, which they did. Like, even the Death Blossom got invested. You would hope that he now would go for the swap, because, like, they wouldn't probably need the Death Blossom, and they probably could use it for a next fight in Streets phase.
Yeah, and I mean, Reaper isn't that strong in Streets phase. So we'll have to see if Nyan Zach is actually pushing the payload. I wouldn't have sent it to the Lucio, because now what are you gonna do when your whole team's EMP? The Lucio had Soundbar, he could have saved them!
It could have, but he wasn't there to actually save them, so that would be an EMP shatter to just confirm the fight. Pika's still in the backline.
Default, what are you doing? You had a Reaper who just ulted. Have him push the payload. Have your Lucio move up with the team. The sound barrier, they didn't need to... Oh... I don't know what was going on in Default's head, but they paid dearly for that one, Bell. And now Eclipse can just cycle through ultimates, hold it this choke. They can throw the grab in, they can grab all of Default on, because how else are they going to manage to get a Reinhardt through? They have to walk forward.
Indeed, while Pinkal's on the high ground, he is actually spotted out by the Sonic Arrow on the corner, so they are very aware that the Reaper is there. Now the grab gets used actually by default, and the Immortality Field is gonna keep most of the people alive for just a bit longer, though Ludwig is now out. No grab for Eclipse to use. It is Peach just on the high ground trying his best to keep his team alive, but he's not actually gonna manage to.
Yes, but Nyanzak had to use the sound barrier, which means that they'll have Coalescence, but is Coalescence going to be able to keep all of them up in Ludwig's grab? Especially if PC Viking has been sitting on this dragon.
I would say that is not really an option.
Going to have a shatter as well. We could just see the grab, then they may want to hold on to the dragon and just have the Reinhardt use shatter defensive to make sure that Cuckoo Papa can't when they're all grabbed.
Indeed, while Pickles almost got Death Blossom, Cuckoo Papa will be the first to drop here. Now a Death Blossom indeed in the back finds two, does get slapped, but that seems like it might be enough to push this payload just a bit further. Ludwig as well invested the grab with no real follow-up, and it is the payload still moving forward.
Invested the grab, but Paradox actually had a really smart wall, just walled off the team from sight so that they were stuck in that grab, but nobody could see them. And it actually forces Ludwig to come all the way around the side of the payload to try and just get some damage in. But then as soon as the grab wears off, all of default just turn around and fire at them.
Indeed, one thing however to keep in mind is here that the clock that we see is already lower after the capture than Eclipse have got for their full push.
Oh,
they start with less time. And indeed they invest a Blizzard with no real results.
Well, really all Eclipse have invested there was the nano to make sure that when Cutismo charges Cuckoo Papa, it finishes him off.
Well, Cutismo doesn't care, he's just gonna do a back shatter again. And gets 3 for the investment. That is a good return on your investment.
Yeah, and Cuckoo Papa was actually not able to counter shatter. Doza has been having this EMP. He hasn't actually felt the need to use it, and why should he when default are just dead pretty much as soon as they walk through? He's in the back, he's on the high ground waiting for all of them to be grouped up. Wants to try and catch all of them, especially the Lucio, who's trying to hide out of the way.
Even that will be enough together with the EMP. A nice combo to again just deny any push. The payload just barely making it past the capture point, just stalled on the earliest point that it can be.
Nyanzak tries to play around that EMP. He goes into one of the hallways to hide out of line of sight. But what are you gonna do? Because sound barrier requires line of sight to activate. If you don't have line of sight for them, then it doesn't work.
Well, that's a shatter from Cuckoo Papa just walking past his enemy Reinhardt. And that will be default finally starting to push back, but the payload is basically still all the way back there, so even though this is a fight win, it's a minimum 15 seconds. Nyanzak
has still got this sound barrier. Pickle is coming up to a Death Blossom, but Cutismo has a shatter. Ludwig is going to have that. No, he's not. He's taken out early by the Mei, which is an opening. If you're default, you have to go forward aggressively, try and punish the Reinhardt who's gone so aggressively.
Pickle tries to go for the Death Blossom. The Immortality Field is going to keep everyone alive. And again, more red in the kill feed is actually Eclipse pushing this back with the nano onto Cutismo. Default is just walking back. There's no follow-up. They invested their Death Blossom, but no results.
And Nyanzak, despite, I think that's, is it 3 team fights now that they've lost? That he hasn't actually put in the summer. He's going to use it now. But
time for them to start pushing again. That's a grab EMP to just pull everyone together, and so much damage done. It's just a Reaper trying to hold on point for dear life, but he's just gonna get focused down.
Well, it's gonna be on Nyanzak to try and touch the payload. They are gonna have ultimates. They've got a Blizzard, they've got a grab. They could potentially come back from this. But it's gonna take quite a lot, especially with that shatter!
Indeed, and now as well, just charging in with the nano is gonna deny most of the progress that default want to get here.
It's just the Moira trying to stay alive on the card at the moment, Val.
Reaper as well, but the hack is gonna deny him anything. is actually going to be the Hammond managing to make it back to the point of Doomfist as well. Paradox dropping extremely low. The Hammond trying to roll around, not really finding the space to do so.
Yeah, it's pretty hard, you know. The Lucio is back. They're staggering in, but Peach is just getting it triple.
And that is overtime ticking down. Eclipse taking the 3-0 and going on to the finals. This being the semi-final rounds. Default indeed now knocked out of this. Still optional to, still possible to win the third place bronze match, but Eclipse taking the victory and taking the win here.
The golden stage, Belle.
Golden stage. Will they be able to pull it all the way through to the full final win? Well, we'll see that next week. What we will see, however, in a bit is the games of AVX versus Frozen Melons. So we will take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
can't look you in the face. I don't wanna have to lie. I wanted this love to survive. Now when I look in your I feel paralyzed.